So we'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and streamed on AACPS's YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room. So please make sure that you read those signs if you have not already done so. At this time, we'll have our invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all education policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. And now for our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And so now we're going to be moving on to item 2.03, our approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes as written.
Do you have a second?
Second.
And consensus? We do have consensus. Okay. Moving on to item 2.04, establishing our agenda order.
Mr. President, I move to amend the agenda and move item number 9 to item number 3, to move the public comments on non-agenda items to replace public item number 3 to public comments on agenda items.
Do Do we have a second?
Second.
We have consensus? Okay, so it is done. So we're going to move on to item
Mr.
3.
Soapworth,
Pardon? Oh, okay, yes. So do we have a motion to adopt our amended agenda?
Motion to adopt the amended agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Do we have any discussion? We have consensus? And we do. Okay. So we're going to be moving on to item 3.0, public comments on agenda items. Well, we do not have any public comments on agenda items this evening, but we do have several individuals that we have agreed to allow them to speak on non-agenda items. So before we get to that, this is one of the opportunities that the board provides to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. The members of this board appreciate hearing from interested citizens. As appropriate, we will refer your concerns to the superintendent for follow-up by his staff. While we encourage public input on policies, programs, and practices within the purview of this board and the school system, this is not the proper forum to address specific student or employee matters or to comment on matters that do not relate to public education in Arundel County. I remind everyone that any inappropriate personnel remarks or other behavior that disrupts or interferes with the conduct of this meeting are out of order. Persons who otherwise disrupt or disturb this meeting will not be allowed to continue their remarks and will be asked to leave the meeting. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer sessions with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistant. I ask that speakers observe the 2-minute clock. A yellow light will shine when you have 30 seconds remaining, and a tone will sound when your time has expired. Please conclude your remarks when you hear the tone. If you continue after your time has expired, the microphone may be turned off. It could also be turned off if the speaker addresses specific student or employee matters or are commenting on matters not related to public education in Anne Arundel County. And so first this evening, we have one virtual speaker. Our first speaker will be Delegate Heather Bagnall.
Good evening, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you. Good evening.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I apologize that I'm in my car. I was trying to not do that, but you know, that's the nature of the beast. I know we all have a lot of demands on our time. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I represent District 33C in Anne Arundel County, which is Broadneck and Severna Parks, but I've had the opportunity to work with our FFA students from Southern High School and to work with Ms. Eccles. As you know, Ms. Eccles has been working with the General Assembly as we've been rolling out the blueprint to make sure that we had enough flexibility to support the agriculture program at Southern High School, because it is somewhat unique to our other college and career ready programs, because it is a 4-year program and it actually meets those 2 pillars, college and career readiness.
she's frozen.
Our students to explore their passions over the course of their studies. Also because they are given the opportunity skills that go well beyond the scope of the CASE program. So I just want to uplift that program. We know we're going to have a lot of demands on our priorities, and we've got some serious headwinds ahead. So I just want to make sure that we are set in the future and really elevating the fact that Anne Arundel County has a leading program in this area. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. So we're going to be moving on to our 2 in-person speakers, Kylie Rohr and Kevin Caton Jr. Our first speaker will be Kylie. You all can speak from the podium, or you can have a seat and speak from the chair.
Good evening, honorable board members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Kylie Rohr, and I'm a senior at Southern High School. This is my first year in the CASE Agri-Science program. Because I'm an avid student as well as an AP student, I have been unable to participate sooner. Before I graduated, I wanted to take animal science, but due to the fact that AP Stat and Animal Science are offered at the same time, they are only offered once in the school matrix. This has caused me to miss out on the opportunity of being able to explore career interests in animal science. The only other option of agriculture science the only other option of an agriculture science course this year is honors agriculture, plant, and animal biotechnology. Because AVID 12 is only offered first and second period on B days, and the only B day class for the ag program that's offered is second period. The only other option of an ag course that I had this year to fit in my schedule was a freshman course of Intro to Agriculture. This program, in the short amount of time that I've been involved, has already provided me with more opportunities of leadership, development, communication, community engagement than any other program throughout my education. I have been able to attend the Regional FFA Leadership Conference in October. I attended 3 board meetings providing support, and now my testimony for Advocate for the agriculture science program. I have attended the South County Concert Series Dessert Night with FFA alumni, the Nightingale Trunk or Treat Community Fundraiser, and the Farm Bureau Banquet, where I met community supporters and industry professionals. I am also planning to attend the Maryland Farm Bureau State Next Gen Conference. The experience of being a part of agriculture science program is unmatched. I have gained public speaking skills, professional decorum, pa- parliamentary procedure, and advocating skills with stakeholders. I have advocated today because
Please
because-
summarize, please. Please summarize.
because it's more people in AACPS should have access to opportunities in the agriculture science program in Southern High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kevin Caton Jr. Kevin.
Good evening, Superintendent Bedell, President Silkworth, Vice President Dent, and other honorable members of the board. My name is Kevin Caton. I'm a senior at Southern High School, where I currently serve as the president of the Southern FFA chapter. Tonight, I want to share with you all how scheduling conflicts have quietly but seriously limited the opportunities of our students in the agriculture program. I came into high school knowing I loved plant and food sciences. FFA helped me discover that passion, and I was excited to take classes that would help me grow in that field. But year after year, the plant science course didn't run, not because students didn't want them, but because the school matrix didn't make room for them. I've built my entire FFA experience around plant sciences, but I've never been able to take the class that matters most to me. I've competed nationally in horticulture, earned a national proficiency award in vegetable production, and currently manage our school's greenhouse. I wasn't able to take AP Calculus AB because it ran at the exact same time as my agriculture class I needed. I had to choose between challenging myself academically and staying committed to my pathway. That's a choice no student should have to make. But this problem reaches far beyond myself. My classmates face the same struggle. One of my fellow FFA officers is a senior, but she's currently taking a sophomore level algebra class because of scheduling conflicts with the CASE program and CAT South, restricted her from taking it earlier. Another classmate couldn't fit the sophomore animal science class into her schedule. Instead of learning the basics of agriculture first, she was pushed into a higher level class just to stay connected to her agricultural goals and remain in leadership in FFA. These aren't just isolated stories. They're symptoms of a system that unintentionally forces students to choose which part of their future matters most to them. Southern FFA's program changed lives, including mine. It has pushed me to seek leadership beyond high school and run for a state officer position with the Maryland FFA Association. But when students can't access the classes that support the program, they lose opportunities to grow, to compete, to lead, and to discover careers that could shape their future. Thank you.
Thank you. So that does conclude our testimony this evening. We're going to be moving on to item 4.0. 01, our CRAS report.
Good evening, President Silkworth, Vice President Dent, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. My name is Ada Zalahusky, my pronouns are she, her, and I am a freshman at Severna Park High School. I'm an educational liaison for CRASC, and I am honored to be presenting this month's update as Jace is unable to attend this evening. On Thursday, November 6th, CRASC held our first General Assembly of the 2025-2026 school year, Stars of Tomorrow, at Severna Park High School. This year's GA introduced a brand new format featuring MLW-style workshops where over 180 delegates rotated through 3 sessions: creative confidence, public speaking, and communication and advocacy, each facilitated by members of the CRASC executive team. We were thrilled to welcome Andy Schindling, founder and CEO of the Complete Player Charity, as our guest speaker. In addition, we had a visit from Brett Morales, the executive director of MLW Workshops, who spoke with students about the MLW programs and leadership opportunities. We were thrilled to have many high school career coaches from AAWDC join their schools to see firsthand the career readiness skills gained from MLW summer programming. In addition, students had the chance to register to vote and participate in in card-making service projects. We would like to thank Vice President Dent and our student board member, Brayden Morgan, for stopping by to connect with delegates and support the day's activities. On Saturday, November 22nd, the Maryland Association of Student Councils will host its Fall Leadership Conference, or FLC, at Northwest High School in Montgomery County. This conference is intended to bring student leaders together from across the state to develop leadership skills through workshops taught by MASC certified presenters. We're excited to share that AACPS is sending a delegation of 85 this year, nearly a 77% increase from last year. This includes 11 of our 38 certified workshop presenters. It's going to be a fun, productive, and inspiring day of student leadership in action. For episode 2 of Teen Talk's 4th season, host Amanda Martaya conducted an in-studio interview with Matt Smith, senior specialist of middle school athletics. She also provided on-location coverage at the track meet at Wiley H. Bates Middle School, giving viewers a comprehensive and engaging look at middle school athletics across the county. Be sure to check it out on the AACPS YouTube channel. On November 12th, our Secretary of Education, Jason Seminoff, and Secretary of Service, Paige Williams, had the opportunity to serve on the AACPS Calendar Committee. This experience provided an important platform for the student voice to be heard, valued, and reflected in the calendar that will be presented later this evening. We are grateful for this annual opportunity to ensure that student representation on the committee and contribute to the decisions that impact the entire school community. The middle school town hall last night was a blast. We had engaging presentations introducing the CRASC Middle School Council and its members. Sessions were on topics such as getting involved, where students learned how to participate in both CRASC and MASC, and note-taking, which focused on strategies for effective notes in each class. Middle schoolers were both engaged and excited to learn about each new topic. We also highlighted our Middle School Liaisons program, which is a great opportunity for middle schoolers interested in CRASC to join and represent their schools. Applications for liaisons close on December 1st. For more information, students can contact their SGA advisors and join the middle school canvas course located on the CRASC website. We are so excited to select our liaisons, host more town halls, and see what the Middle School Council will accomplish this year. For a full list of CRASC events, head to our CRASC website at www.aacps.org/CRASC and enroll in the CRASC canvas course. That's all we have this month. Thank you again for this opportunity, and have a great Thanksgiving break.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 4.02, our CAC report.
Good evening, Dr. Bedell and board members. I'm Michelle Powell, and I'll provide a short report this evening as chair of the Citizen Advisory Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to present virtually this evening. As a reminder to the public, the Citizen Advisory Committee, or the CAC, consists of members from each of the clusters across the county, with military representatives as well as representatives from the Council of PTAs and Special Education. We met on November 10th as a large group to do our work. At that meeting, we had our liaisons and our members who sit on other committees report out, specifically the Policy Committee, the Equity Committee, the Council of PTAs, and the Wellness Committee. I had the pleasure of attending what was called a reset meeting for the county's a joint commission on the opportunity gap last week, and a CAC member does sit on that committee, is appointed to that committee. And I just wanted to thank Talia Pike for being the person to step up and hopefully be appointed and work on that committee with them and bring their work back to the CAC. On November 10th, we took a look at a policy on academic integrity, last updated in 2008, and its corresponding regulation. We broke into small groups and had discussions about academic integrity, looking at the policy, and discussed what it did well and what we thought might be unclear or missing. That feedback was obtained in a Google form, and some themes that emerged were modernization for the technology that's come online since 2008, clarification of language, how do we create a culture of academic integrity in the classrooms, and consequences for missteps. So we were really getting to know the policy and talking about academic integrity at this meeting. And what we're going to follow on with in December is we're going to meet again in our small groups and think about how artificial intelligence or AI might be brought into this policy. So we'll continue with those discussions into December. And so just to wrap up, as I mentioned, we'll meet in our own small groups independently during the month of December, and we'll meet again as a large group in the new year. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to item 4.03, the President's Report. I do have a few things. On November the 8th, the Office of School and Family Partnerships hosted the 2025 Family Involvement Conference at Anne Arundel Community College, and I'm going to ask Dr. Tobin to speak to that.
Thank you. I was delighted to attend the keynote speaker portion of the conference this year. It's always a wonderful event. And I want to give a particular shout out to Ms. Lombardi and her entire team at the Office of School and Family Partnerships, all the work that went into this. It's an extraordinary opportunity for our families to engage. It's always worth attending. And I just want to thank everyone who came. I want to thank the staff who worked so hard to put it on. And I want to encourage anyone who's listening to be alert to this next year. It is an incredible opportunity. So many resources, so many incredible workshops that families can attend. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. On November the 12th, a public briefing was held here in the boardroom to provide an overview of our proposed redistricting plan. And on the 13th, a public hearing was held here in the boardroom. November 17th, Monday evening, a second public hearing was held here in the boardroom. On Monday, this past Monday, Ms. Shalheim, Ms. Pullum, Dr. Bedell, and I, we got to share in an amazing surprise and tell Danielle Crankfield, a school counselor at Crofton High School, that she is the National School Counselor of the Year. Ms. Crankfield was named one of 5 finalists last month by the American School Counselor Association, and representatives of that organization were also on hand Monday to celebrate. She is the first Maryland school counselor to earn this award. This is absolutely amazing and exciting. The excitement among the students, Ms. Crankfield's current and former colleagues, and her family was just amazing to see. And thanks to our great TV team, you can see it for yourself. Take a look.
You are the best of us. You make this place a better place every day. What you give to our kids, what you give to the staff, what you demand of us, you make us better educators and better people. And because of that, and because the rest of the world gets to see what we already knew, you are the 2026 National Counselor of the Year. She's amazing. She is the best of us. She puts the kids first every day, puts our staff first every day. She challenges us to be better, and Crofton High School is a better place because of her presence.
To receive a national award of this magnitude helps to elevate Team AACPS in ways that I just don't think people fully understand. You represent the best of the best that the entire United States have to offer. You are an innovator, creating new programs, things that haven't existed to ensure that our kids have space to belong, grow, and succeed. Your body of work speaks for itself.
For every student in here, whether you're on my caseload or not, I want you to know that I do this for you. Your success, your ability to do what you want to do in this world is what motivates me every single day to do all the work that I do. So it's for y'all. I am truly honored and humbled and excited to represent my profession on a national level. I truly love working with children. I'm passionate about mental health and education, and this job allows me to put the two together. And helping students be successful, it's my life's purpose, and I truly enjoy this work. And the students that have been coming up to me and talking to me are the reason why I show up and do this work every day.
I know I speak for our board and Dr. Bedell when I say we can't wait to see the work Mrs. Crankfield does on the national stage. So once again, Ms. Crankfield, congratulations. Mr. Mosier, your team, TV team, whatever, we thank you so much for bringing that special occasion to us here in the boardroom. Thank you. Finally, in my president's report on Tuesday evening, Ms. Schalheim, Dr. Tobin, Mr. Morgan, Ms. Dent, and I attended the New Village Academy groundbreaking celebration. The mission of the New Village Academy is to ensure that every student is known, connected, empowered, and accountable, so they have the will and the skill to take charge of their education and future with Annapolis as their classroom. Congratulations to Rami Pittman, the founding head of the school. We look forward to the opening of the New Village Academy. That's in August of 2026. So once again, that was a great event last evening. And so congratulations to Ms. Pittman. At this time, I'd like to recognize Ms. Pullum. I think you had something you would like to mention?
I did. Hold on 1 second. I wanted to recognize, you had already passed, Miss Sarah Skinner from Cat North. She was just recognized from the Maryland Agriculture Association. What is the Maryland Agriculture Teachers Association? Maryland Ag Teach, and the Teachers, Maryland Ag Teachers Association, and it was a great honor for us to have her being recognized. We have really great programs in agriculture, and Miss Skinner has done an excellent job. So just thank you, Miss Skinner, and thank you everyone out there who is a part of the agriculture ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pullum. So that does conclude the president's report. We'll move on to item 4.04, our superintendent's report. Dr. Bedell.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, it's interesting because today I was at one of our middle schools, and what are the odds that I walk into the hallway and one of our female students walk out with a big old Buffalo Bills sweater on. So that may be at next month's recognizing her too. All right. Yeah.
Excuse me, Alaba.
Huh?
Why are you forcing this child to put on a Buffalo Bill shirt?
Listen, he didn't even know I was coming. I think he loves the colors and everything, and the team is winning. All right. So thank you, Mr. President. At the last meeting, I told you that I didn't think Broadneck High School's Ben Cole, who won the state golf championship, would be the last this season. Tonight, we have 7 more state champions, and we're not done yet. We want to offer congratulations to the following state champions. Frankie Kelly, who claimed the first state championship in Severn Run High School's history by winning the cross-country competition. We are excited about that. It's their very first. Here's the other ones. Broadneck High School volleyball and cheerleading won states. The Severna Park girls soccer and girls cross country won states, and 2 Severna Park United Bocce teams also won. So if you're counting, and I do count, that's 6 state team athletic championships, 2 individual championships, and a marching band championship so far this fall. Stay tuned because we still have 4 schools, Broadneck, Glen Burnie, Old Mill, and South River still competing in the state football playoffs. And then we will be well on our way into the winter sports, which are at this point getting ready to take place. I've talked a lot about the work that Joe Callahan and our Education Foundation are doing to support our students, and we are very appreciative of their efforts. Here's a chance for everyone to help as we work to try to support students and educators in our classrooms, and it does involve ice cream. Take a look. Man, I've been waiting all week to try the new Smart Cookie 2.0 ice cream. Is anyone here?
Here.
Oh, I wasn't expecting my students to be here today.
We're running the shop now. We've got it all under control.
All right. I guess I'll take 1 scoop of the Smart Cookie 2.0.
Order up 1 smart cookie for Dr. Padel. Yes, Chef. I got the ice cream. Need more topping. Can't forget the Fritos. I need more. Need to make sure it tastes right. 1 smart cookie for you.
Thank you. Did I hear that 20% of the proceeds of each scoop will go towards supporting our students and schools?
It sure does.
Now, that's what I call a sweet partnership. Thanks for the ice cream.
You all did a really good job today.
With smart cookies.
We might even have to hire you guys full time.
Do we get paid in ice cream?
Hey, what are you doing over there?
Quality control.
So yes, I want to thank Bob Mosier again and his team for the wonderful work. It's interesting because I think these kindergartners, they did this probably on their first takes. I had to take 3 because the cherry kept falling off of mine. So that lets you know that these students are way ahead of me, and I'm very excited about that. But what's important to share with you all is this is the 2nd year that we're doing this partnership. 20% of the proceeds go right directly to our education foundation, and then that money is then turned around and it's issued to teachers in forms of scholarship for opportunities for them to do some innovative things. That money is also utilized to also support some of our students who may be in need of some additional resources to ensure that there's a level playing field so that they have exposure to some of the opportunities that are available where it does require some form of cost. And so I do want to thank our Education Foundation, the board, all of our business partners that have partnered with us, and Joe Callahan for his leadership in us being able to do these types of things. And then finally, just our weekly update on how we are looking with staffing. And as you all can see, we're pretty much holding steady in a number of these areas. And again, I will continuously say we have to figure out compensation, hours, some of those things for food service workers if we want to ultimately place a dent in that particular area. So with that, Mr. President, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Dr. Tobin.
I'm just going to suggest that somebody should get those kindergartners an agent.
Yes, we'll work on that.
So I'm wondering if I can get involved in quality control. Oh, well, maybe not. Okay. We're going to be moving on to item 5.01. We have a presentation this evening. It's our 2026-27 school year calendar. Mr. Mosier.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, Bob Mosier, who chairs the calendar committee, and he'll talk about who it's comprised of, will today present to you all the 2026-2027 recommendations from that committee.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. President Silkworth, Vice President Dent, members of the board, I'm Chief Communications Officer Bob Mosier, here to present item 5.01, the calendar committee's recommendation for the 26-27 school calendar. It features no ice cream that I'm aware of. This is an information item for the board this evening. This recommendation aligns with Board Policy IB, which states that the primary objective of the calendar adopted by this board is to support the instructional program, and lays out that the calendar committee's purpose is to recommend the calendar to this board. The calendar touches all portions of our strategic plan in some way as it impacts students, families, staff, and the entire school district community. The calendar committee, comprised of representatives you see here, met virtually on November 12th and arrived at the recommendation before you this evening. It's important that you know at the outset that agreement on this calendar was not unanimous among members, but that it does reflect the will of the committee. This was the committee's first work on a calendar using the flexibility days granted by state law, and that presented some different challenges and discussions that I will discuss. The calendar before you does, as the state law envisions, reduces the number of partial school days from 12 in previous school years to 4 in this calendar. There was also a tremendous amount of wide-ranging and robust discussion on many new intricacies in what, as you will see, is a unique year in terms of where certain days fall in the calendar. To help the board understand where the committee ended up, it's important to know where it started. As it began its work, the committee was presented with a calendar based on 177 school days, the same number in the current school year calendar. It meets all seat hour requirements set forth in state law. The calendar called for the first day of classes to be August 24th and the last day for students to be June 11th. August 24th is 1 day earlier than this year. June 11th is 5 days earlier than this year. It's important to note that Labor Day next year is September the 7th, which is the latest that it can possibly be. The calendar contained all necessary and mandated closings and maintained the traditional Thanksgiving and Easter spring breaks. However, it called for schools to be open on December 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, the 3 days right before the Christmas winter break. The committee briefly discussed the potential of moving the first day of classes to August 31st, but did not do so. It then took up the Christmas winter break days and spent the largest portion of the meeting on this topic. There was considerable sentiment to close on these days to provide a full 2-week break, largely for attendance reasons. The committee talked extensively about where to move the 3 days in the calendar if it were to close schools. Along with some others, the 2 students on the committee made the most compelling arguments about the need to have those days placed prior to MCAP and AP testing days and not simply moved to the end of the school year. Their sentiments were echoed by a large portion of the committee. The calendar recommended by the committee to this board tonight does close schools on December 21st through 23rd, and it moves those days to the start of the school year. That makes the first day of classes for students Wednesday, August 19th, and leaves the last day of classes as Friday, June 11th. Without using any of the 3 built-in inclement weather days, the last day for students would be Tuesday, June 8th. The last day for teachers, if the days are used, would be Tuesday, June 15th. If no inclement weather days were used, it would be Thursday, June 10th. Committee members expressed several concerns during this discussion that are important to put on the record tonight. Chief among them were the earlier return from summer break for teachers and even earlier start for things like new teacher orientation and the potential impact of those things on the hiring process. Next, the committee examined Easter spring break and the fact that the calendar it was presented called for the 3rd marking period to end shortly after students returned from the break. Easter, for everyone's reference as you look at these slides, is March 28th in this 2027 school year. A teachers association representative on the committee suggests it would be better instructionally to move the break to begin on Good Friday and carry through the week after Easter, allowing students to finish the marking period before the break and eliminating the possibility that they would have to come back from break and take district assessments and those things shortly after they came back. There was some good discussion about the big culture shift this would be for families and staff and students, as the week-long break, as long as we've had it to my recollection, has always been prior to Easter. The instruction-related marking period logistics, however, led the committee to move the break to begin on Good Friday and continue through the following week, as you see here. The teacher grading day for the third marking period would then move to Monday, April 5th, meaning students would actually have a one-day longer break at this point in the year than if it happened before Easter. The other notable change made by the committee was to move the 4 partial days for Unity Day to 2-hour late arrivals instead of 2-hour early dismissals. The major line of thinking here, what this is better for more students, particularly those involved in after-school extracurricular and athletics activities, as they would not have to go home from school only to turn around quickly and return for their other obligations. Additionally, elementary students would still have their older siblings at home with them in the morning on a 2-hour late arrival, something that does not occur in the afternoons on an early dismissal, as the elementary schools dismiss first. So those are the major points of the calendar before you tonight. The board is scheduled to vote on adoption of the calendar at its next meeting on December 3rd. Before I conclude, though, I want to say that in order to provide families and staff with even more advanced planning capabilities, staff is planning to bring you the 27-28 calendar this spring for your adoption. And then in this normal cycle next fall, bring the 28-29 calendar, meaning that by next November or December, the board will be adopting school calendars nearly 2 school years in advance. With that, Mr. President, I'll turn it back over to you for any questions you and the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. So I'm looking at my list. Any of my colleagues have any questions this evening? Okay, seeing their lights. Thank you so much, Mr. Mosier, and thank you for all members of the committee. Thank you. We're going to be moving on to items, some consent items, 6.0, award of contracts. Do I hear a motion to bundle?
Motion.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Motion to bundle consent items 6.01 through 6.08.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have consensus for the bundle? And we do. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of contracts on the consent items numbered 6.01 through 6.08.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland, Mr. Morgan,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, we're moving on to item 7.01, administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Superintendent recommends that the board approve the administrative personnel appointments as discussed in executive close.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Howe.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland, Mr. Morgan,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right, we're moving on to item 7.02, promotion and retention. This is a policy reading, third reading, code IIB.
Thank you, Mr. President. Grace Wilson will present this third read to the board, and as she get ready to go into it, I will go ahead and make the recommendation now that the superintendent recommends approval of policy IIB, subject to final correction for style and format. I'll pass it over to you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Good evening, President Silkworth, Vice President Dent, and members of the board. I'm Grace Wilson, Director of Legislation and Policy. Policy IIB, Promotion and Retention, is before you on third reading this evening for final adoption. As a reminder, this policy is being updated to account for the recent adoption of the Maryland State Board of Education Comprehensive Pre-K through 3 Literacy Policy. Accordingly, promotion requirements for elementary school students have been updated to require that students meet the requirements of the state's literacy policy in order to be promoted to grade 4. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, I'm seeing no lights, and Dr. Bedell, I think you've made your recommendation. Okay, Ms. Schallheim.
Move to adopt. Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, moving on to item 7.03, on first reading, distribution of non-school communications code KA.
Thank you, Mr. Silkworth. Policy KA, distribution of non-school communications, is before you this evening on first reading before being posted for a 30-day public comment period. This policy is being updated to permit the distribution and display of electronic materials in addition to printed materials, recognizing that in an increasingly digital world that distribution of digital materials should be permitted as well. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Okay, I'm looking for lights. Seeing none,
Thank you.
thank you so much. So we're now going to be moving on to item 7.04, our Phase 2 redistricting, the adoption of our plan. So this evening, we're going to go in roll call order. And the roll call order this evening for any motion will begin with Ms. Dent.
So again, I want to thank all of the community and everyone from the staff, from this board that has been patient during the redistricting plan. I thank you for all your comments, all your continuous comments, and I thank you for being so very active in that. And with that, I move that the board adopt the revised board recommendation 3 as the final phase 2 redistricting plan.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion. We do have a second. As I mentioned, we're going to go in roll call order to see if we have anyone that has any amendments. Dr. Tobin.
I have no amendments.
Ms. McDermott.
Thank you, President Silkworth. I move to amend revised board recommendation 3 to remove the split articulation of Nantucket Elementary School and thus maintain the existing matriculation pattern within Crofton Cluster for elementary, middle, and high school.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second discussion. Ms. McFarland.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this forth. I did write out a couple words. I wrote it down because I didn't want to get too nervous. But I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that I make decisions with my heart. And that's why from the start, I knew that I could not vote for a plan that would split up an elementary school after we've intentionally allowed them to form community bonds throughout their most formative years. However, I recognize that decisions cannot be made on heart alone. So while my heart hopes that we can avoid the split articulation of Nantucket students, to be smart in this decision, I needed to use my head and focus on the data that we were presented with. I'd like to highlight some of the information that we have received that led to my data-driven decision. Firstly, I drive on Route 3 regularly and it feels dangerous, but the anecdotal evidence on whether or not we think it is dangerous should not be considered. We have been shown the data on the high amount of traffic accidents along the path that our students would be traveling on. We need to use that data to make smart decisions for our kids. Secondly, in the Educational Facilities Master Plan, AACPS projections for Crofton High School begins to trend downward after 2028, dropping by 5% by 2031. Using the current enrollment for the 2025-2026 school year and the updated state-rated capacity, Crofton High School is now around 105%, down from 111 before the new SRC and enrollment data. We are beginning from a much lower percentage, and if the projections in the EFMP are accurate, Crofton High School should achieve less than 100% capacity by 2031, but possibly even sooner, since the EFMP projections show Crofton High School increasing enrollment between 2024 and 2025 and 2025-2026, when in fact the enrollment has already begun to decrease. Thirdly, we've been shown that the data in the revised board recommendation 3 that moving a portion of Nantucket students to Arundel Middle would bring Arundel Middle School to 99% capacity. Given that there's growth happening in the Arundel cluster and virtually no room for growth in the Crofton cluster, this does not make sense. I understand that Arundel Middle School is in need of expansion and renovations, but it is not the overutilization of Crofton that affects the funding, but the underutilization of Mead. That brings me to my last point. We have all seen the email from the IAC that says that the overutilization of a school will not affect the funding of adjacent schools. It is the underutilization that will affect the funding, and we are not solving that problem with this revised BR3. For these reasons, we should not be moving children out of the community that they have formed and bonded with throughout elementary school. Please, I ask you not to vote with both the data and your hearts and keep all of the students at Nantucket in the Crofton cluster. Thank you.
Dr. Tobin?
Yes, I would like to ask some questions with regard to the data of the staff, please, Dr. Heiser and Mr. Roof. Good evening, and thank you for once again coming to answer our questions or my questions on the data. Just as a start, obviously you've heard just the comments that were made by my colleague on the data, and also we've been hearing various comments in testimony, written and in person. And I would like to ask for you to respond to some of these. And so obviously a few have just come up. The notion that the high school data will be trending down, that by 2031, I believe it was just said, Crofton will, if we do nothing, be below 100%. The statement with regard to the IAC's position on this. Those are just a few things. And I'd also like to add, maybe if you could comment on the data on Crofton Middle as well. But specifically, if you could respond to a number of these things that we've heard from various sources, and also perhaps comment on your work with the IAC and what your understanding is of the process and the policies of the IAC.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin, board members. So first, I just thank you for the opportunity, and thank you also for the statements and the questions. Just to reiterate, information you had heard as well was that we've, for a long period of time, have had an excellent working relationship with the IAC. And I think it was, in fact, it was in the media that they kind of stated the confidence in the school system, and we value that partnership greatly. And just to kind of emphasize the kind of partnership and funding and our team's ability and the trust I have in our team to be able to determine the funding, which is not the only reason we're redistricting, by the way. It's to balance schools. But since 2018, 9 additions our school systems put forward, 9 additions. And I'll save you from the list of those additions, but I do want to give Mr. Roof an opportunity to talk to the enrollment projections that you asked about first.
So looking at the EFMP from July, there is a slight downward trend that we put into the EFMP as far as projections. So in 2025, we projected 1924. Obviously, we're below that. And then 2034, it goes down to 1896.
Which is what in percentages?
110% by 2034,
Mhm.
but that's using the old SRC of
Okay.
1722.
The new SRC is 1776 that was approved.
So you're looking at 107%.
Okay, and that's with the new SRC.
Correct.
So based on that, is it your belief, I think it's been stated both in some testimony we've gotten and on the dais, that if we do nothing with Crofton High School, it will simply, the problem will simply go away. It will no longer be overcrowded?
I think it'd be too early to tell, given the new data,
Mhm.
the delta between our projection in 2025 and what the actual enrollment is this year.
Mhm.
It's likely that there would be an adjustment in our projection.
Okay, but it's, you can't tell at this point.
We start working on the projections in January, and then we finalize those as we get state data. So we have to be within 5% of the state data.
Mhm.
There's a checks and balances associated with that for the district, and then we start going into school level. So we really don't finalize things until around May.
Okay, so as it now stands, if we were looking in the next couple of years, we really can't say what that will look like?
The unofficial enrollment that we had was 1876
Mhm.
is what we provided. So you're looking at around 106% right
Mhm.
now.
Right.
It's likely to be stable, somewhat trend downward, similar to what our projections were before.
Okay.
You also asked about the middle school and 2034 projections are for the middle school 1456. The SRC for the middle school is 1339. And again, to Mr. Ru's point, it could be adjusted, but the time being using the EFMP, it's 108% projection 2034.
Okay. And with regard to Arundel Middle, if we maintain the split articulation, what does that do to Arundel Middle?
Arundel Middle School unofficial utilization right now is 98%. Using the movement chart from the table, you'd have a net gain of about 56 students.
Mhm.
I'd likely put it slightly over capacity.
Okay. And you mentioned, Dr. Heiser, there are multiple reasons for making these decisions and balancing facilities. So on balance, it is your estimation that the split articulation will achieve that goal of balancing the facilities?
It would balance, certainly would begin to balance Crofton Middle School and Crofton
Mhm.
High School
Mhm.
as we work then towards a possible addition for Arundel Middle
Mhm.
to help increase the utilization there.
Mhm.
And so, yes, it would begin towards that route.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McDermott?
Thank you. I want to thank my colleague, Ms. McFarland, for speaking so eloquently about this. I am just going to riff. I have nothing, so just get ready. First, I want to thank the families that have shown up to advocate for our district. Thank you so much. I know that your testimony has had major impact on my colleagues. Second, I think we have been bombarded with data about the IAC, and no matter which side you want to choose to believe, we are talking about a brand new high school that does not feel like Arundel, any of the Arundels. It has been built to the sense that it feels spacious enough for everyone, no matter what the capacity is saying. And as somebody who traverses Route 3 every day, multiple times a day, I am begging you to keep these buses off of Route 3. It is highly dangerous. It is highly congested. There are thousands of cars on it every single day. Please do not force these kids to split from their community to go on that path to Arundel. Thank you.
Michelle Hunt.
So I'll start with a thank you as well to everyone who's contacted us over the last many months. And I appreciate your patience with me as I work through past traumas of redistricting to get to where I am today on this. I want to, and it's true that my math skills are sus. Thought you'd like that. But it seems to me that we're moving, if this split articulation were to remain, that yes, Crafton Middle would drop from 103.9% to about 94%, but that Arundel Middle would go from 98.2% to 102%. So I struggle with that because it doesn't feel like a sustained solution. And I realize that there are other parts of this that we amended earlier on for myriad reasons, and that we might very well find ourselves back here to truly deal with a few other clusters in that in a few years. But to me, at this moment, it feels like a shifting of a problem from Crofton to Arundel, at least in terms of the middle school. And the high school, it's not quite as severe, but I mean, I can't ignore the middle school bit. And I'm going to obviously vote with my colleagues, Ms. McFarland and Ms. McDermott, and be a no on any sort of split articulation. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Ms. Dent.
Okay, I really want to hope to clear my brain up because it keeps getting clouded for me. And I'm a simple person. So I'm not going to do the math. You've done the math. I just need to clear this up. So I think I heard you say, and help me, Ms. Shawheim, you said 103 now, and it's going to be down to 94%?
That's my math for Crofton Middle.
Crofton Middle. No problem, no problem.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Heiser, help me understand if we're moving Crofton Middle from 103 down to 94 with no moves, and then we're increasing Arundel Middle from 98 to 10 to over, I think at 101, I think it was 102. It seems like we're trading spaces, so I just want to make sure I clear this up in my brain.
I'm going to let Mr. Roof clarify the record as it relates to movement and
Okay.
projections for the schools you mentioned.
So just for clarity, Crofton Middle School is unofficial 101.4, not 103.
Okay.
So last year, Arundel Middle School was at a lower utilization, and that's what we used for the report, right? In 2025, that number grew. So Arundel Middle School right now, unofficially, is approximately 98%. It's important to keep in mind that the student numbers that we have in the movement charts are from 24, 25. So there's a net gain at Arundel Middle School associated with the 60 students that would move from Arundel to MacArthur. Then there's 103 middle schoolers from Crofton that would move to Arundel. That gets you a net of 56. But those are last year's students, remember that. So that 56 would likely put you slightly over 100% capacity if we use the same students from last year and the unofficial enrollments.
Okay, so with that data, everything that I've seen and read with the IEC says that we are to accomplish the facilities and to ensure that we can maximize for the use of funding or receiving funding means that we need to be able to ensure that we have overutilization schools and underutilization schools balanced. Is that accurate?
When they look at funding, they're looking at adjacent schools.
Sure.
So whether the kids are at Crofton or whether they're at Arundel, they're still going to be counted as adjacent.
Okay, but the balance in that, explain that to me. I'm really trying to, because here's where I'm asking. Right now, if I hear you correctly, regardless of how we get to it, Arundel is going to be at 98% capacity. And then if we move with the split articulation, they would be slightly over 100%. That's accurate, correct?
Mm-hmm.
At 102. And so I'm asking the question that in 7 years, is there a matriculation pattern to where it's going to be below the 100%? Or is it going to continue to increase?
It would, with the development in that area, it's likely to increase.
Okay, and then with the development with Crofton, let's go back to Crofton Middle School. So with Crofton Middle School, you have 94% after if BR3 were to pass. What would that over the course of the next 7 years go up or down toward? Does it go up above 100% or does it remain below 100% for Crofton Middle?
Again, it'd be too early for me to project for that with the new information that we have that's unofficial.
Sure.
The overall trend for Crofton Middle School in the 25 EFMP is that we're showing it go from 100% to 108%.
Okay. And you,
So we're showing growth in the
okay,
middle school.
so your data shows that it goes up.
That's what the EFMP is showing.
Okay, all right. And what's the percentage, I'm sorry, from,
Actual 2024, 100.4. Projected 2034, 108.7.
okay. And is there any reason why you said there was an adjusted data? Is there any reason why we didn't adjust the numbers for the recommendation or there a reason why we leave the data as it is from 2024 to current?
Because we do not have official enrollment data.
Enrollment data for 2025?
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's that on that particular question. So let me move back to, I like getting caught up in the numbers here because when I look at Crofton High School, my consideration was what happens at Crofton Middle School, at the Crofton cluster. What happens at Nantucket? What happens at Crofton Middle School? What happens at Crofton High School? And so if the trend of Crofton, if I hear my colleagues right, it sounds like to me, and you all correct me if I'm wrong, but you see the trend of Crofton going down at Crofton Middle and the trend at Crofton High School going down. Is that accurate?
Oh, you asking me?
Yes.
On the EFMP, what we show from what I was looking at was high school going down, but the middle school leveling off.
Okay, but I'm saying that data is the data that you pull from our records, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. So my question to you is with the trends that are being seen by us with the data that we have, not with the new numbers. I'm just saying with the data that we have. How and why is there a trend with the data going down in the EFMP data? Forget the new data. There's a trend with it going down, but yet we still saying that the trend is that it's going to go above 100%. So I'm asking, how are my colleagues seeing it one way, but I'm hearing another way? I just want a little bit of clarity.
I can just tell you what the numbers are in the EFMP. So the numbers in the EFMP are 2024 for the high school. Actual enrollment was at 110%. That was using the old SRC, right? Using that same old SRC, it went to 110% in 2034. So 110% 2024, 110% in 2034, stable. The middle school, actual 2024 enrollment utilization, 100.4%. Projection 2034, 108.7%. We're showing it go slightly up.
Okay, so nothing in your trend shows that it was going down.
At the middle school, the projections are going up.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, everyone, for all your support during this process and your feedback and the numerous calls and meetings that we've had. I just want to ask one question. You may have addressed it, but I don't remember hearing it. In terms of Crofton Middle School and Arundel Middle School, it's my understanding that Arundel Middle School does have, not only is it on the list for expansion, but at Crofton, we do not have the ability to expand that school. Is that true, or am I not saying that correctly? Can you provide more insight on that opportunity?
So Arundel Middle School currently shows up in the 27 CIP that was approved by the board on September 17th. Shows up as design start in 2028. The Crofton Middle School has received additions in 2000, 2015, and 2024. Those were the opening dates. It currently has 3 portables. Arundel Middle School received an addition in 2022, and it has 4 portables. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm just asking. I recall in our conversations that if the numbers increase at Arundel, they're in line for an expansion of some sort for their school, but there's not that opportunity at Crofton because we've already expanded as much as we can. Can you provide that insight?
There's limited room for a future expansion at Crofton Middle School.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Dr. Heiser and Mr. Roof, and thank you to the community for, like again, my colleagues have said, the conversations, the meetings, and the advocacy. I just want clarity off Ms. Pullum's question. So, is there, in line for an expansion to start at Arundel Middle School?
Yes, as previously stated, 2028 would be the design start in the CIP.
And then so, there's talks, fellow colleagues talking about how Arundel would be overcrowded. Would that expansion, alleviate the overcrowding of Arundel Middle School, potentially, if there were students moved there from the articulation?
It would depend on how big of an expansion we did.
Okay. Thank you. And second question I have, just I can hear it again so the public can hear it. What are the downsides of leaving a school like Crofton so over capacity? Because I know, for example, they have 4 lunches, which is not typical. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, it's not typical of a school that size to have, a 4 lunch schedule. So I know there's various other things, and I've heard other, issues being overcrowded. What are some issues, if we left a school so overcrowded as 110%?
I won't go into too much depth in terms of the culture of a school, because I think obviously all our schools have really good cultures, and so it's really not about that, but it's certainly it has a tremendous impact on faculty, on class sizes, on when student safety issues happen. And certainly it also plays a role when we think about expansion opportunities and making sure that we are responsible in making sure our schools are efficiently run as possible, that making sure that they're optimally utilized. It plays a big role. And so I think it's very important. And I think it's also important to mention that whether it's this particular area where we're talking about moving schools or in phase one when we move students, one thing that we learned was that students, the schools that they left are performing really well, and the schools they're going to, and Mr. Morgan, you're a part of one of those schools in phase one, and you received new students.
Yeah.
And our schools do a great job of receiving those students. So it does have a ripple effect. In this situation, I'm mentioning a positive ripple effect. So those are some of the internal things to think about.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Pullum.
Thank you. I've heard a lot of comments about the safety on Route 3. Previously, when the folks in Nantucket, before Crofton High School was built, it's my understanding they did not actually travel down Route 3. They crossed over at Johns Hopkins. So they're actually crossing over Route 3. Is that going to be the same traffic pattern for them going, if this vote goes through and that this plan is adopted, what would be the traffic pattern or the bus pattern for them? Are they going to keep to what it was previously where they crossed over Route 3, or do you see them actually driving down Route 3?
I would envision them driving north on Route 3 from Rydell Road, taking a right, and then taking a left to the road that goes to Arundel. That's for the high school. And so alternative plans had students moving from, these are scenarios, not plans, but other scenarios had them south of 450, much, much further away, traveling further distance up to Arundel, which was problematic as well.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Shahan.
So first, I do stand corrected. I see where my eyes saw the incorrect number earlier. So I just wanted to state that, and thank you for the clarity on the number. But the middle school number remains, where we're going from 98.2%. And I am using the unofficial numbers because at some point they're going to be official. That's a great question. Has there been in recent memory a time where the state has looked at the unofficial numbers and made huge changes to them, or any change to them?
It's not a question that we could answer for us specifically. That would be more a question for our IDD office, our data division, likely, but not for me.
I'm going to assume that maybe that's not a frequent thing, but I don't know. So I'm going to assume that these unofficial numbers are one day going to be official, and so therefore moving these, and I'm focused on the middle school because that gives me the most heartburn at the moment. Goes from 98.2%. This is Arundel Middle to 102%. And I just want that to sink in. So yes, they're going from an overcrowded school at the moment for sure, 101.4%. But then they're basically going from a slightly overcapacity situation to, again, a slightly overcapacity situation. And I just don't, I can't, I personally can't do that. I want to talk about Route 3. So I sat up here and was part of the horrific exercise that was the opening of Crofton High School and its redistricting. But that was like 6 some odd years ago. And I would argue that the traffic on Route 3 then versus the traffic on Route 3 now is kind of like apples and oranges. I think it's much worse today than it was those years ago. I think anyone would say that. I see nods. And it's not just a bus, it's also new drivers. And I am in this mind space now because I'm not terribly far away from this occurring in my house. And just the small panic attack every day putting those new drivers on the road. Wouldn't you rather have your kids go through the neighborhood? I think I would personally. So I just want to point that out, and thank you.
Dr. Tobin.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to touch on something that you mentioned, Dr. Heiser, because as we all wrestle through this, what are all very difficult decisions, I'm trying to keep in my mind both the immediate details of numbers and all the things that we're discussing, but also what the larger good to be gained, if there is a good to be gained through this redistricting. And, we talk about balancing facilities and all of that. But as you noted, we have seen really good results coming out of all the schools that were touched in the first phase. And if I'm following the argument here, as I've tried to follow everything I've gotten all the way through this, the argument goes something like this. We have a situation where we have overcrowding at Crofton Middle, Crofton High School. The split articulation occurs. Those students go to Arundel Middle. Arundel Middle, because of change in data, is going to then be initially overcrowded, but given what we've requested on the CIP, very quickly we begin work on an addition. And if I'm following Ms. Pulliam's line of questioning, that is not something we can do at Crofton Middle. And I'm trying to think, in the pros and cons here. If in the long term we're setting up a situation whereby Crofton Middle is set up to do better because we're reducing the overcapacity there. Ultimately, similarly, Crofton High. And Arundel Middle gets a much needed addition that presumably any addition that would be built to manage the capacity that we have there. And so you have ultimately, if I'm following the argument here, and obviously, Dr. Bedell, if you wish to weigh in at all on this, whereby part of what we have to keep in our head is how are all the students who are in these schools, all the students, set up to do better? Are we doing something here that sets those students up to do better? Because that has to, in the end, be our goal. And so that's what I'm hearing, but I want to make sure that I've got that right here.
So first of all, I guess I would start with the premise that any student could succeed in any one of our schools. So I would resist or go against the notion that if you move schools at the middle school level, if you leave Crofton Middle School, or if you leave Nantucket and don't go to Crofton Middle and you go to Arundel Middle, I fundamentally believe that that student will be successful and can be with the faculty and staff there and the great things happening. And by reducing utilization under 100%, it's not only about, efficiencies in terms of how do buildings run, but in terms of how we work with our students and how many students are in a class and what that looks like in the context of the school, and personalization, how well do you get to know a student, is why we build schools. This is why we don't have middle schools that are 3,000 students. So I fundamentally believe that. And so in doing so, yes, we are fixing utilization and lowering it and helping Crofton Middle School. At the same time, while we build that addition and enrollment goes up more, and they are building in Arundel, in that whole area. An original plan, we only have one plan now, but an original plan, in fact, superintendent's plan, was adjusting for the Arundel piece, and that was undone by an amendment. So the next phase of work that really is to be done years down the road will be to help with utilization in the open seats that exist at MacArthur Middle, at Meade Middle, and the very few open seats at Old Mill, Middle North. So I guess I would say that we approach this redistricting in two phases. When Dr. Bedell led us through that, and we get through first phase, and we did that in two phases because it was a lot to chew. And what we found in phase two now was that this movement of students was also a lot to take on. And the board has experienced that, I think. And so I would say just because you can't, and they made the decision not to do it all into MacArthur, doesn't mean that taking that first step is a bad step. It's actually the right step.
And I'll just say a couple of things. For me, this isn't my first rodeo with having to redistrict. I've worked in 5 different school systems. When we have to redistrict, there are multiple reasons why. I think I said this from the jump when I started here, and the school board said, Dr. Bedell, we're going to have to engage in whole district redistricting. One of them was because of the opening of schools. Phase 1 was a lot more massive because we had 2 new schools because of the amount of growth that we ended up having to populate that resulted in us having to do significant shifts within the boundaries. But we also knew that we had several schools that were either at the capacity rate or over capacity rate that necessitated us having to then continue this process of going into phase 2. And this year we received our data back from phase 1. And I can sit here and tell you the schools that we did have to redistrict, and there was a lot of pushback in phase 1, rightfully so, just like it is right now, rightfully so. When the data came back, those schools made tremendous progress, even to the point where we ended up having to remove, I don't know if it's maybe close to 300 students from Meade. Meade ended up having the most growth out of any high school this year. That's why we did the press conference over there, because part of it was balancing the school so the staff would have a much more manageable student population so that they're able to give our students the undivided time and attention, the ability for our students to be able to participate in activities and have open opportunities to have this full-blown experience. And I brought that information to the school board and said, hey, look at these schools and look at what has happened as a result. As painful as it was to go through phase 1, I have no regrets that we made the right decisions that, in my opinion, will put those schools and the students being served in those schools in the most optimal position to thrive socially, emotionally, and academically. And I just want to say this, and I've said this to a couple of family members on Monday. Nobody up here wants to do this. It's the reason why nobody's done whole district redistricting probably in over 40 years. I don't remember the last time it was done in terms of what we're doing right now. But we realize that in order for us to get this school district to where we believe it can go and to be able to continue to do the work that needs to be done around the capital projects and things of that nature, it does require us to have to redistrict. I've had to redistrict in districts because enrollment was too small. I had to close schools and I had to change boundaries. And then in some school districts, we had to redistrict, not because we opened the school, but because the school was over capacity and we had to move people into other schools where there was more space available. So it's just not a nice thing to go through. And I understand the pain people are going through. I've had to live through going through this redistricting stuff multiple times. I don't want to be up here having to do this and feel the way that I feel and then hear the pain that's coming from these families. But I don't know another way. I don't know how this board will vote tonight. And I'm going to live with whatever decision this board goes with. At the end of the day, I'm at the service of this board. So is our staff. And that's what we're going to do. But I do want people to know we're not doing this because we're trying to cause harm to a community or any community. And there are many communities that after we looked at data and made some new assessments, we actually did not continue with the plan as scripted. But we still have 750 students that we have to balance. That's all I can offer you, Dr. Tobin.
Ms. Shalheim.
So I'm looking at the CIP, and I just want people to understand, like, an addition doesn't go up like that. You know, we cannot wave a magic wand and assume that construction's going to be on time and on budget. And in the best case scenario, this would be, and please correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, it would be an opening of that addition in fall of 2031. That's a long time from now. So that school will remain at 102 and growing because Arundel cluster is growing, lots of development. I don't think anyone disputes that. In various parts of the current Arundel cluster, even with the current plan as it stands now. And so it's just going to tick up until the levy is opened and we have some relief. But that's not going to happen until the soonest possible time that could happen is fall of 2031. So I just want to make sure people are clear-eyed about that. And so, yes, I do think that, and we've shown it to be true, that the data out of the first round of redistricting was very incredibly positive. And I think it might be for a large part of what we're trying to do in phase 2 as well. But in this scenario, I cannot with a clean conscience move kids from, yes, an over unofficial data is 101.4 now that I'm looking at the right line, which is, I should have had a ruler with me when I did this earlier, to a school that is even slightly above that now and will continue to tick up until we, at some point in the future, we're going to have to adjust Arundel further into Meade because we're going to have to. And me personally, just to touch on why I couldn't do that now, is because I helped open Two Rivers. And to me, it was a bridge too far to open a school and be like, hey, here's your new school that you've been dying to have, and then rip it away 2 years later. So that was why I voted the way I did a few meetings ago. And we took action on that. That's what we have now. But I cannot in good conscience sort of move the problem with the hope, the wish that we would open this addition. And this is if we're fully funded, it's on time, it's on budget, and that would be fall of 2031. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Ms. McDermott.
Ms. Schalheim took my point. She got to the light quicker. I do just want to pull the thread of we are going to be moving students. Where are they going to go? It's going to be years until we can get that extension. So where are these students who are being ripped out of their community? Where do they get to go at Arundel? Do we have space for them? Doesn't seem like it. Thank you.
Ms. Dent.
I was going to let you respond to that because I have two questions.
I mean,
after that.
on the one hand, it seems like it's a few of the comments are around how troubling it is to have an overutilized school over 100% and so on. And what will the kids do? And so that's on the one hand as we talk about Arundel Middle. Yet on the other side, we're saying it's okay for Two Rivers to be over and they'll just work it out. And so I'm having trouble in my mind rectifying those two things. And there are other schools that we are moving students. I'll mention Davidsonville. We're going to move kids from Davidsonville to get them under 100%. It's okay for those kids to move, but your argument, why wouldn't we just keep them there as well? I mean, so I guess I argue with the notion that we're ripping kids out of their community. Arundel Middle School is a great school. Arundel High School is a great school. Mr. Morgan's experienced kids transition to his school. These kids have transitioned, they're resilient. And let me just mention that these kids travel up and down Route 3 every day to shop, to play, to have fun. We send students up and down Route 97, 30, 40 miles. That's safe enough. And so this isn't. And so there's just some unevenness with the logic that's being used right now. And I don't mean that, I really do not mean that in a disrespectful manner. But I just wonder why it's okay for some schools to be moved and not others. And that's bothering me when the charge wasn't about additions. It wasn't about the IAC. It was about getting all of our schools under 100% utilization so they're not overcrowded and they can have a great experience. So thank you for allowing me that time.
Ms. McFarland.
Can I finish?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Dent. Go ahead.
I mean, you
I'm
left
sorry.
me. Okay,
I'm sorry.
So a couple of things. The first one is, so thank you for your comments. I just want to put this in perspective over and over again. Are there any buses that go up and down Route 3 that you know of, whether they're from Anne Arundel County or not?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm asking that for a different reason because I was told that there were no buses on Route 3, right? So I don't know whether it is or not. When I go up and down Route 3, everybody's in my way. So from big trucks to everybody, just in my way. So I'm asking, are there any buses that you know of?
Yes.
Okay, all right. You don't have to tell me the who. I just want to know. That was one. The second question that I had is that, and you may have answered this and I just didn't hear it. Is there any capacity to expand at Crofton Middle? Or do you know? If you don't know, Mr. Roof,
It would be difficult.
explain difficult. You know I do difficult.
In the last edition, we had to expand the core of the building because the cafeteria was too small. So if you add another addition, we're going to have to add the core addition onto the building, which at that point, it's a large project.
Okay.
Because
all
the
right.
cafe is inside the building, not on an exterior wall.
Okay. So in your construction personal opinion.
That's my personal opinion.
Okay. All right. Thank
I've
you.
not done a design on it.
I just want to make sure for the record that, you're not
Yep.
the design bill. Okay. And then my next question for you was talking about Arundel Middle. I know that it's a nasty word, Mr. Silkworth, so don't shoot me. So at Arundel Middle, do we have portables?
Yes.
Okay. So is there room for expansion of portables at Arundel Middle?
Yes.
Okay. So we have room to be able to expand to help with the overcapacity, if you will, until we can get to the construction project.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all my questions. I think I got it for tonight.
Ms. McFarland.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak a little bit to what Dr. Heiser asked why we're willing to keep certain schools over capacity and not others. For me, the answer is the split circulation. I know we spoke early on, and you said, and I asked you if there's a way to avoid it, and you said if there was, you would, and I believe that. I believe we all came in with good intention. That is the reason that I cannot do this, because we're intentionally putting a group of students together in the years where they are really forming those friendships, they're learning, they're developing, and then we're taking a portion of them and moving them off. And that's the answer to your question. That's why I don't believe that we should be doing this. And then as far as phase one, I think for the most part, people are happy, but I will say, just because I know there's probably people from my community listening, it's not been perfect. I have heard people at Pasadena Elementary talking about how that's shifted their school and made changes that they're not happy with. The people from Farmington Village had a huge issue with arriving to school on time because they were now going down mountain roads. So just because we're not always hearing it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So I just did want to speak to that, because I don't want my community to think that we believe that all issues have been solved, because some of them are still ongoing.
Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to speak to something that Dr. Bedell, Dr. Tobin, and Dr. Heiser all said, because I worry predicting what happened if I didn't, when it comes to how schools are in better places since the phase one. And, I don't like to say, I never say my school, because I represent not to go against what Dr. Heiser said. I was planning to say this before he said that. Dr. Heiser is very right in what he said, and I'll get to that. But, I don't have a school. I represent every school, every student in our county. So I like to say that, my school is Annapolis, my school is Crofton, my school is Southern, my school is every school in this county. It's in this room, with us. But as a student board member, I attend school, and I walk the halls every day of a school in which underwent phase one redistricting, where we lost and gained students, and that loss of students to relieve overcrowding. Along with that, I would talk with hundreds of students, thousands of students across the county who underwent phase one, who are either at the new school of Severn Run or redistricted in schools like North County, schools like Glen Burnie, schools like Old Mill. And yes, it's not perfect. And yes, I've told all students watching, virtually all students in the audience that potentially will undergo redistricting, that I will work closely with all of you to make sure that transition is smoother than it was in phase one, and learn from phase one transition, because it was not perfect. But the data does not lie. It has been better, and the schools have improved since being redistricted. And I've seen that firsthand in multiple of our schools that underwent phase one, how the students are able to transition, how the staff the administration is, principals are, have that better ratio, as Dr. Heiser said, and that better, feel with the students. And so to any student who may be worried about transitioning, I will ensure that we improve from phase one. And I reassure you that a lot of students that underwent in phase one are very happy at their schools, and which is why there's many in phase one who even chose to attend the new school as seniors, or transition to schools as seniors. And so thank you for the comments on backpacking off of Dr. Bedell, Dr. Tobin, and Dr. Heiser.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. So Ms. McDermott, as the motion maker, I'm going to give you the option for the last.
Simply that this is the only elementary school in this phase of redistricting that has been split articulated or is being proposed to be split articulated. I simply wish that we take that into consideration before we move them over to a school that does not have room for them. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have the second. We had some discussion. At this time, I think we're ready for the vote. Ms. Howe.
Ms. McDermott moved to amend revise BR3 to remove the split articulation of Nantucket Elementary School and thus maintain the existing matriculation pattern within Crofton cluster for elementary, middle, and high. Ms. Dent?
No.
Dr. Tobin?
Nay.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Morgan?
Nay.
Mr. Silkworth?
Nay.
That's 4-4, motion fails.
Okay, we're going to be moving on in roll call order. Our next board member roll call order. Ms. Pulliam, you have a motion?
Pass.
Okay. Ms. Schallheim?
Yes, I have a motion. I move that the legacy student provision be expanded such that students who will be entering 5th, 8th, or 11th grades in the 2026-2027 school year will have the option to remain at the elementary or middle school to which they are currently assigned. Students electing to remain at their current elementary or middle school or high school will be required to enter a legacy student transfer portal to indicate that choice and must provide their own transportation to and from school.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we do have a second discussion. Ms. Stent?
Motion to amend. Motion to amend. Can I? Okay. I move that the legacy students be moved to allow 11th grade students to remain at their current school through graduation.
That was in my motion. It was for 5th, 8th, and 11th graders.
I know, I wanted to amend it so it didn't include 5th and 11th.
I'm sorry, I'm so confused. One more time.
I don't want 5th and 8th grade, I only want 11th grade.
So we have a motion to amend. Do we have a second?
Okay, motion withdrawn.
Okay, we have no second. So for the Ms. Schallheim's motion, do we have a second? We
Ms.
do have a
Second.
second. Okay. Dr. Tobin?
So my same concern persists here with regard to transportation. So the way I understand this is if we do not pass an amendment to make 5th, 8th, and 11th grade students legacy students, then all rising 5th graders who are subject to redistricting would move as a class, for example, to their new school. Same for the rising 8th graders, same for the rising 11th, 12th. Sorry, forget 12th. But if we pass the legacy, you will now have a situation where you have the rising 5th graders and only those, and same with the rising 8th graders, only those who have some alternative transportation, either private, their parents can drive them, or they're walkers, or they can bike. They now get to stay in their old school, while the kids who do not have access to that now move without their whole class. into the new school. As I work that scenario through in my mind, I have a really hard time. Let me just say this. This is hard. It's hard. And I've said in previous comments, I have personal experience of some of what this is like. But I think it's even harder if you are now talking about being a child who has to move, knowing your classmates get to stay, and has to move because your family can't get you or you don't live where the other kids do. And to me, that is multiplying what is a very real pain. And that is the part that I have to say I cannot get past in my mind. And let me be clear, I've always been concerned about the impact on the seniors who only get to stay in their old school if they have access to transportation of their own. But given the importance of enabling as many students as we can to have their senior year in their high school, I've had to make my peace with that. But I still remain in a position where I find it brutal to consider making this difficult situation even worse for children who are potentially the most vulnerable children. And so I'm afraid I cannot support this. Thank you.
Ms. Shalheim.
So it's not the whole class that's moving. It's various neighborhoods on the map. So it's not the whole entirety of, say, I'll just take one of my schools, for example, the whole of the Folger Rising 5th grade class. It's a portion that live in Cypress Creek that are potentially moving from Folger Mackenzie Elementary to Severna Park Elementary. Folger Mackenzie Elementary has both before and after care, which takes more than a smile to get into. And I talked to Tammy Anderson, who was kind enough to take my call yesterday. She's in charge of Parks and Rec childcare and has been for many years. I remember having conversations with her prior to us changing school start times. And at the present moment, there are about 2,000 people on a wait list for aftercare. Some of these children will lose their childcare spot. That is a real hardship for parents. And this is right after, only a few years after we finally instituted healthy, safe, and age-appropriate school start hours that moved that school from a start time of 9:40 in the morning to 8 o'clock. That's a real thing. And so so those parents, I don't know what you tell your employer, I can't be at work till 10. And so on the backs of that, finally to a decent start time to then make this move that then rips that childcare away from some of those parents who for years struggled to obtain and retain childcare so that they could, hold down a job and live in that part of the county. And so that is from the stance where I'm most concerned about the consequences of redistricting. So when I talked to Ms. Anderson last night, she said that your spot doesn't just move from Folger Mackenzie to Severna Park Elementary, or from Belvedere Elementary to Arnold Elementary, or from Davidsonville to Central, or wherever. You forfeit that spot. You go on a wait list, and then if the stars align and a miracle happens, you get a spot. And if you don't, it leaves the parents in kind of a pickle, as we all know. And these are So for fifth grade, that is the chief reason why I want to do this. I also think it's hard developmentally to move middle schools midstream. Developmentally, I think, you know, going to two different middle schools is harsh. But that is why I'm specifically interested in this for fifth grade, because there's a childcare issue at stake. I've heard from a number of parents in the district that I was elected to serve about this, and I make this motion for them and for everyone else who's going to suffer across phase 2 of redistricting as a result. That spot disappears. Now, will they be able to eventually get a spot? The sense I got from Ms. Anderson is eventually maybe yes, but nothing is guaranteed. And so I just ask for my colleagues' consideration on this, because that is a real problem I struggle with. Thank you.
Ms. Pullum.
I'm actually really struggling with this decision because every single family that is being moved has a problem in some way, shape, or form. I've heard parents say, please provide us legacy. But then I've also heard parents say, I don't know personally how I can make that work. I'm going to be able to keep one child here due to legacy. Another child is going somewhere else. The time for middle school is at 9:30. I have to work. And how do I manage each of my children when all of them aren't legacied? So at the same time, it's really hard to be redistrict, and the following year you get a brand new school. So it's like multiple movements. So that's something I am kind of working through my head on. The parents, number one, there's some parents just outright can't provide that transportation. And then the other ones said they're going to have to juggle it, and it's going to be really hard, and especially those who are one parent family or another member raising the children. So those are the two things that I'm struggling with.
Ms. Dent.
So I'm struggling with all of the legacy, just like many of my colleagues. My children from a military family moved, and my daughter, I think you all have heard me, still sits around the dinner table every Christmas. And this Christmas will be no difference because I'm still on the board. And she will explain to me how I fight for children every day to stay at their home school, but I didn't fight for her to stay at her home school, which isn't true. But that's how she'll remember it. And so I appreciate all the parents that are fighting for their child to stay through their years, not only in the 5th and 8th, but to fight to remain with their communities. And so where I draw concern is that I did represent District 1 in the redistricting. And the truth about redistricting in District 1 is that while we may not have had as many board meetings in the presence and with cameras, we had a lot of board meetings in the communities that I served, because that's where they were able to get to. And I heard the cries and the woes about every single day that they had to worry about dual families, working class, 2 jobs to make ends meet, not only just in daycare, but just to pay the rent. And so some of my families moved from Meade, Fort Meade, or Meade High School, over to Old Mill. So whether you know it or not, it's a little bit of a commute. But they lived through it. And so I say this knowing this. My biggest heartburn, and I'm not ashamed of it, was with 11th graders. And the reason it is because, and I shared this with Asma and a lot of my board colleagues, is because in that 11th grade year, That's when you're really trying to get into college and you're really trying to do all this stuff. But then today, Mr. Sickworth showed a video and reminded me of the amazing counselors that we had at each and every last one of our schools. And so I know that while this is difficult, we do have some amazing schools. And the trajectory that our schools are on is not going to change. And so I will not support this motion for a lot of reasons. One, because I don't want to leave the message that somehow or another our children won't be able to succeed as they're moving from one school to another one. That from a year from now, that we can't work with our communities as we did in phase one with the jobs, with the same thing that we did in starting school times earlier. We worked wholeheartedly with all our community involved. And I do believe that we can get to a yes by the start of this. So I appreciate all the advocacy for everything that's been done with the legacy. But unless there's a way, and I don't know that there isn't, I guess I should have asked you this question. Is there a way for us to provide transportation for all of the legacy?
No.
No? Okay. So unless there's a way that we can provide transportation for all the legacy students, I can't support this motion. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Ms. Dent. Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I mean, I would be remiss if I did not share not only, or I'm not sharing my personal testimony, I'm sharing from the student lens. I'd be remiss if I didn't share that for all of these, motions that are before us, not only for my colleagues to hear, but for the public to hear. And backpacking off of what Ms. Dent and Dr. Tobin just said, from having many close friends throughout the county, teammates throughout the county, not just in my home school, throughout the county, having teammates, very close friends of mine who went through this in phase one and could not be legacy students because of transportation. It sucks. It very much so sucks. There's no better word for it. It sucks. And, for that reason, it's very hard for me to support. Very hard. I just think about all of my classmates in these catchments in phase two that won't be able to do that. And I'm reminded of some very close friends of mine who could not do that. I do want to ask staff, would there be downsides to moving forward this motion for 5th, 8th, and 11th legacy students?
I think Dr. Bedell has spoken to the transportation piece, so I don't need to kind of repeat that piece. In an earlier, I believe it was a workshop, I spoke about the 11th graders and the challenge with 11th graders in terms of parking, and that big assumption that a student would have a car to drive. But in those situations, there would not be parking for those students. And there would be pressure, being a former principal, there'd be pressure on school administrators to have parking and somehow find parking. And that's an impossible situation for schools to be in. And so that comes to mind when I think about our 11th graders. Something to consider also for the board is that in those situations where people, parents, family members, they're able to get a ride, I'm not going to assume that people are able to carpool, and that some family members, whether it's in the morning time for work reasons or for pickup for after school activities, which our students in 5th and 8th grade are very involved in outside extra activities, and what that does to increasing arrival and pickup times on campus. Our schools and some of our roads, and we've experienced this in some other areas where since the pandemic, more parents are driving their students to school, and it increases the traffic flow and creates another challenge. So that's the that's just some operational challenges that you should be aware. Not to say that there aren't many positive reasons for this legacy.
Thank you, Dr. Heiser. And we talk. There's a lot of talk up here on voting with heart and voting with our head. And so thank you for giving me the ability to vote with my head. And so I know I'll get a lot of questions as to why I don't think I can support this amendment. And so to be transparent, as I always have been, I've seen firsthand the effect it has on students to not be able to, go with their classmates for that, firsthand. I've watched it. I want to add on to what Dr. Hyder said earlier about doing, and what Ms. Dent said about, if I were to support this, it would, feed a narrative that students cannot succeed at all schools in this county. And as the representative of all students in all schools in our county, I know that is very far from the truth. I attended a school that faces very much stigmas, and I'm never willing to hide from that. But as Dr. Heiser said, after redistricting and the growth we've seen in that school is tremendous. To comment on the piece of involvement and engagement, there are many opportunities. In this case, different from phase one, because in phase one, it was a brand new school. There was not many student-led opportunities. In phase two, many of these schools, these are schools that have been existing, and there are opportunities. There are counselors who have been there for years. I did not start getting very much involved until my junior year. And I've, been able to find and create many opportunities for students in my school across the county as of recently. And for myself to sit up here and represent all 85,000 students in this county. And so I still will, of course, answer any questions from my fellow students, but to be very transparent, those are the reasons in which I may not be able to support this amendment.
Ms. McFarland.
So I do understand the equity piece. I do value that. However, I also really value the strength of our communities. So I think that as a community, these students will come together with their friends and help each other out to get to school, or decide as a group, okay, we're going to move or stay. I think our community is one that helps each other out in situations like this, and I would hope that we would come together in that way to to allow those students to either stay or go as a group.
Ms. Shahan.
I want to go back again to childcare. So again, not all of our schools have before and after care. Those numbers are also very much prescribed by the state. You can't then scale up and just add more seats. That cannot happen. It's based on 35 square feet a student. And also, so the space, there would have to be physical space in that building. This is all hypothetical because Ms. Anderson basically told me like, it can't happen. Like they're maxed out. So each child per state mandate needs to have 35 square feet. You also have to have a set number of staff to run that program. So when you take a student, especially a student in the elementary world, from their childcare is a huge burden on families. And then there should be no assumptions that we can poof magically create childcare in the new space, because in all likelihood that program is already tapped out. And I've confirmed that for the 4 schools in District 5. I assume that that's true elsewhere. And so that's the crux of the argument for 5th grade. And again, for 8th grade, now my child is in high school. And I think it would have been horrific to move. Middle school is already fraught for a lot of reasons. Developmentally, it's a really difficult time. Lots of development happens in those years. So to go to 6th and 7th grade at one school, and then to another school, a new school for 8th grade, and then another school for 9th grade is a lot of movement in a very short span of time. So that's why I continue to press on this point. We cannot magically create childcare, and we can't magically assume that this isn't, that this is a pull yourself up from your bootstraps moment. Everyone will be okay, because I'm just not sure that that is in fact true.
Ms. Pullum.
So I want to ask you, Dr. Heiser, as a former principal, in this situation, so we have the 3 neighborhoods in Nantucket. We have in the South River High School cluster, we have Glen Isle, we have Hambledon, we have Blue Heron. When you go in a situation where you say, okay, 5th graders, you can have incoming 5th graders, you can have legacy, and some people can go and some people can't. And you may not know this, but in terms of continuity and the social emotional piece, did you find that because of legacy, or do you think because splitting them up, that transition would be better or worse?
I can't speak to that. I can't answer that. I mean, you're not intending it to be an unfair question. You're
Right.
sincere in your question, but every student is different.
Right, got it.
Every student's different, every family's different, every community is different. And so what might be stressful for me as a student when I was in 5th grade versus for you could be very different things. And so it's a I can't answer something that I don't know the student. One thing that I can say is that is it difficult to transition to a new school? Absolutely, it's difficult, and we should recognize that. And should we build supports and services around supporting those students that have to move, whether they are able to choose to go or not go? Yes, we should. And we've done that in phase 1 quite effectively. Doesn't mean it isn't hard, but our kids are resilient and they're able to do it. So
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, so seeing no more lights, I'd like to go back to Ms. Shalheim. Ms. Shalheim, as the motion maker, would you like the final?
I think I've said everything I needed to
Wanted
say
to
in
give
as
you the
many
chance.
ways as I could think of saying it. Thanks.
Okay, so we've had our discussion. I think it's time for us to come to a vote. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Shalheim moved to expand legacy student provisions such that the students who will be entering 5th, 8th, or 11th grades in 2026-2027 school year will have the option to remain at the elementary, middle, or high school to which they are currently assigned. Students electing to remain at their current elementary, middle, or high school will be required to enter a legacy student transfer portal to indicate that choice and must provide their own transportation to and from school. Ms. Dent?
Nay.
Dr. Tobin?
Nay.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Shalheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Morgan?
Nay.
Mr. Silkworth?
Nay.
It's 4-4, motion fails.
Okay, once again, we're going in our roll call order. Ms. McFarland, you have a motion? Okay, Mr. Morgan.
I do not have.
Okay, Ms. Pullum, you did pass.
I had a few questions before I put forth my amendment. Is that okay? Or put forth the amendment then? I need some clarification on a few
Questions
things
for whom?
for Mr. Roof and Dr. Heiser.
I think that may be okay. Everybody okay? I think that's all
I
right.
just need to clarify a few things before I move
You
forward.
mean as to whether or not you will then?
Yeah,
make a
that is
motion?
correct. Yep.
Okay, all right, okay.
All right. So the questions I have are around Davidsonville Elementary School. We've mentioned it today. When this process began, Davidsonville Elementary School was open at 100%. It was operating at over 100% capacity, and that is definitely one of the problems that we set out to solve. capacity concerns have been central to our conversations and planning. I've met with different people. So my question to you is, a request was submitted to increase Davidsonville Elementary School, their state rated capacity by 1 classroom. Has that request been approved?
Yes, it has, and it was in the most recent briefing.
Next question, what is the newly approved SRC? I have it, but I want to make sure that the public has it.
694 is a new SRC.
694?
Yes.
Okay, great. Does the new enrollment or the new unofficial enrollment of 697 or the new enrollment, does it place DES over or above capacity? And if so, by how many seats?
It's over capacity using unofficial enrollment for the current school year by 3 students.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. Pullum, there's no motion.
I move to amend revised BR3 to keep the 27 students from Glen Isle and Hamilton neighborhoods in Riva at Davidsonville Elementary.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. I'm looking for some lights, Ms. Pullum, Dr. Tobin.
All right, can you take me through these projections again? So over by 3 students, so we're over 100%. That puts us at what percentage?
Like 100.4.
100.4. Can you help remind me? I don't have the map in front of me. Am I remembering correctly that these neighborhoods in question that contain the 27 students are all on one side of Riva? Is that correct?
Correct. They're on the western side, if you're looking at the map.
Okay, and so they are on the side that, am I correct, that already goes to Central? Is that correct?
They are adjoining that side that already goes to Central. So
Okay, so they were kind of a group on that side that actually went to Davidsonville as opposed to in the past.
In the past, they went to Davidsonville
Correct.
that are being moved, and
Right.
they're adjacent to neighborhoods on the east side,
Right,
Sylvan Shores, Riva, those areas
that go to
Central.
that go to Central
Okay,
Elementary.
all right. I just had to remind myself of their position. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Shaham.
Yeah, I'm going to support this. To me, on a map, and no, I don't drive down there often, so I don't really understand the intricacies of this part of the county, as my colleague clearly does. But on a map, it does feel like we're expanding what looks to me on a map. Again, this is just my eyes, like an attendance island. And I know this group of students has gone to this school since the school was opened in 1961. And again, that doesn't mean that we won't one day find ourselves back here for development or myriad reasons. But I'm gonna support this one. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Silkworth. So for Davidsville Elementary, what are the enrollment projections for them?
Using 694 from the EFMP, it's 108 in 2034,
So they would be
108%.
okay. So they'd be gaining a lot of students over the next couple. Okay. Thank you. That definitely helps me. Just as I done before, for the public, I want to thank all the students who came out. Especially there was one 7th grader who came to public hearing who was extremely well spoken, and the testimony we've heard from this community was amazing, and I'm very thankful for the way they went about the testimony. For the vast majority of who he came out, who's emailing, who's texting, calling. At least I'm speaking for myself here. I know the rest of my colleagues were very, attentive, and we've all done extensive research. But that was my question I had. Thank you, Dr. Heiser and Mr. Roof.
Seeing no more lights, Ms. Pullum, as the motion maker, would you like to speak?
Yes, I do. This has been an emotional and crazy journey for so many of us. As soon as the superintendent's recommendations came out, the first thing I did was reached out to this population and of students, anybody who actually, they weren't the only ones, but anyone who was not in the scenarios provided by the consultant, I reached out to them right away. I've spent the most time with the communities in Riva. We've gone through every scenario, even looking at, is there an opportunity for expansion from the school? And I believe, Dr. Heiser, you said no. Was that correct? For Davidsonville
That's correct.
Elementary School? Okay. I have met with them. Some of the suggestions that they came up with that I looked at is, well, there's actually 4 communities. There's River Creek, there's Blue Heron, there's Glen Isle and Hambleton. So this whole time, a lot of emphasis has been on Glen Isle, but there are communities that had 6 students in it, or neighborhoods that has smaller amounts. And so the question was, do I support taking 6 students out, 4 students out, or the full 27? I will tell you, there is a gentleman here in this room that has called me numerous times and said, you know what? Why don't you, if there's nothing we can do, can you at least give us a chance? Will you please put forth the amendment and let's see where it is and do whatever we can to the very end. And I thank you for not only the repetition and the continuity of calls, but the great discussions that we've had. And this is what this is. It's 3 students over. I know, and I heard the comments, but it's 3 students over. This community has been there since the inception of Davidsonville Elementary School. And I ask you to consider this request and give them this opportunity. And I thank you for those in Glen Isle, River Creek, Blue Heron, and Hambleton for continue to be a part of this process. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more lights, I think we're ready for the vote. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Pulliam moved to amend revised board recommendation 3 to keep the 27 students of Glen Isle and Hambleton neighborhoods in Riva at Davidsonville Elementary. Ms. Dent?
No.
Dr. Tobin?
No.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Mr. Morgan?
Nay.
Mr. Silkworth?
Nay.
It's 4-4, motion fails.
Okay, so we have gone in roll call order. I want to check one final time. We do have a main motion on the floor. Is there anyone else that, Ms. Schallheim?
I just want to make a comment. I'm going to be voting no on this plan tonight for a variety of reasons. I can't split articulate Nantucket, that's one. I would have been softer on it if the whole group moved from kindergarten on up. As it stands, I can't support that. I can't support intentionally ripping some students away from their childcare. That's 2. I can't support students going to school at 2 different middle schools before going to high school in a span of 4 years. That's 3. I'm going to be a no on this plan. I want to thank everyone who has reached out to me over the last many months. I want to thank Dr. Heiser and Mr. Ruff for entertaining my I don't know how many questions, hundreds probably. Ultimately, I can't get behind this, and I'm not going to. And my heart breaks. Thanks.
Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. I have a few things I want to say. First of all, with regard to the latest votes, I've had to take some what I consider to be tough votes tonight. I promised when I started this process and with every community meeting that I've had, which, like my colleagues, have been many, that I would do my level best to be consistent with the information, all of the information that I received, evaluate the data, make sure I was making my decisions on the most objective data, and doing so with an eye to the best outcomes for the children in the schools that are going to be impacted. And my votes have reflected that, even though I am very much aware that there are those in this process who are going to be very unhappy and find this difficult. I want to thank everyone who came out, who contacted me, who spoke to all of us. I especially want to thank all the students who have come out and spoken to us. I hope you understand, some of you are happy with the outcome, some of you are not, but your voices mattered in all cases. And I am truly, truly grateful. And I hope you never stop advocating. And I hope you understand that advocacy is a long, hard road, and that leadership is usually a choice between 2 bad choices. I also want to say a few words, particularly to the Annapolis cluster. I brought an amendment for discussion, which was highly controversial, as we saw. And I'm exceedingly grateful to the community that came out and made their voices heard. I asked them to, and they did, and the multiple community meetings that I had. Ultimately, the reality of the impact of my amendment, given that it could not be justified on the grounds of overcrowding, which is ultimately part of one of the foundations of this process, made it necessary to, in my mind, remove that amendment from the ultimate plan. But the problem remains in the Annapolis cluster that I talked about at the very beginning. We have a lot of work to do in the Annapolis cluster now to begin to determine what the next steps will be and what the best path forward will be to make sure our resources are going where they can be most effective, that all the students in Annapolis are heard, that we develop a robust ability to have as much of the Annapolis community engaged in our schools, our public schools, as possible, because that is ultimately what will ensure a strong and healthy community. I'm incredibly proud of the Annapolis cluster schools. I'm incredibly proud of all of our students. But I know Dr. Bell and I have had a number of conversations, and we will moving forward to ensure that we are making community and data-driven decisions that best serve the community and use the resources that we have. I want to thank everyone. I am always here to discuss further any of these issues. I thank my colleagues for all the work they have done in this process. We've all put lots of miles on our cars and lots of years on off our lives in some cases. But I think we've all done our level best. And I would say that I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this board because I know how seriously every one of us has taken this, and will continue to take it. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McFarland.
I agree with Ms. Schelheim. I cannot support this plan. I Going into this, I knew that I had to do my very best for our students, that at the end of the night tonight, I could go to sleep knowing that I did my very best. And although I did, I still cannot sleep tonight knowing that essentially we're going to be redistricting our fifth graders at Nantucket year after year after year. This is not a one-time, and I'm just very disappointed, and I cannot vote for this plan. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Silkworth. Just as I have with all these motions, I want to give my, 2 cents to the students because one thing I learned on the board is that more students than I realized watch these board meetings. More students come out to testify than I've realized, and to be very honest, that's what keeps them fun for me. Them hearings is watching those students come up, especially those who are younger than me, which is many of you. I'm proud of all of you, and I am inspired by many of you. All these students who have come out, reached out to me, meetings with me. Dr. Tobin said put miles on my car. I've put some miles on Route 3 coming down to Crofton to meet with you all. My tires have been okay, but a fuse or two have blown up, have fried up in my of my engine. So, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And so, to all of you who have reached out respectfully and properly, I thank you. I've definitely gotten a taste of what it is like to be a full voting board member throughout this process. When it comes to hours of research, hours of conversations, and ultimately the hard votes we have to make. As I've said before, and as I said since the start of this process, no matter the outcomes, we've all said here, students will most likely end up having to move. And I mean it when I say that I understand many of those students who have to move, not all, but many who have to move will be unhappy with that. However, I will promise, and as I have for months, that I will work with you all for the rest of my term before the school year ends to make sure there are systems in place for you to transition smoothly, much more smooth than phase 1 was. And phase 1 was smooth. Phase 1, there are many students who are succeeding at their new schools, creating initiatives, clubs, at my home school even, but there's still room for improvement. And we will find those ways to improve. Working with you fellow students has been the highlight of this process. And as many of us have alluded to, there are not many highlights of this process. It is not fun for anyone on either sides of the dais here today. But I just want to thank all the students, parents, families, staff. Dr. Heiser and Mr. Roof have answered, as Ms. Schelheim said, God knows how many questions. And so I thank all the students, especially though, for coming out and testifying and meeting with me and inviting me into your homes and schools.
Thank you. Ms. Pullum.
This is a really hard night for me in general. At the beginning of this journey, I looked at the maps in District 7, which is Crofton, South River, and Southern. I knew this was going to be a long journey. And as many of my friends, family, and the folks on this board knew, that I jumped in and I took it seriously, and I got out there and I met as many community members as possible. it was to the point that it took over everything that I was doing. Because when you look in those faces and you see the disappointment and what could be happening to the students and the family, it doesn't matter what your mind says before you go into the meeting. When you leave, if you're walking out and you don't have empathy, then you probably shouldn't be on the board. I want to thank the students who have come out and advocated for themselves. It means so much to us to have you and to see, just to hear your stories. That is so important to us. The parents, things did get ugly. Actually, they got more than ugly. But at the end of the day, there's not one person on this dais that doesn't understand that this is an emotional time. And there's nothing more important than your children, which makes this job even harder than some of our other elected positions. I want to thank Dr. Heiser. And Mr. Ruth, I will tell you my appreciation for all that you've done has grown, and I thank you. And what I want others to know, and I really want to emphasize this, you have no idea the amount of time he has worked with me for you. The amount of 7 a.m., 7:15 calls when he's on his way into the office, and I say, do you just have time for this one question? I want you to know that. There is a lot of negativity coming at our staff and our leadership, but this man and his team, they did everything. They jumped through the hoops. They did everything to make sure that you received the information. Anything you asked me, I went to him right away. There were so many times I was like, well, I'll get him on his ride into work, and he took that call. I thank you. I thank you so much. I want you to know that although there are some things that I advocated that didn't move forward, I trust and believe in Dr. Bedell and the leadership here that we're going to be okay, and that this plan, that we're going to do well. They're going to make it their mission, as they had going through this process, to make sure that everything that they can do in their power, that it goes well. I know things didn't go exactly the way some of us had planned, but I have to tell you, throughout this process, I've trusted and believed in the administration and their team, and I'm going to continue doing that. So for tonight, I am approving this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pullum. So I've been a man of few words this evening. I'm going to say a few things at this point in time. During this entire process, this board, including myself, we have been extremely great listeners. And I was a really great listener tonight, and I am absolutely so proud of my colleagues on this board. They have spent so much time, so much effort for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. In phase 2, they did the same thing. We did the same thing phase 1. I am so proud of Dr. Bedell and his staff. And I agree with all my colleagues who have thanked them for all of their efforts. I'm thankful, so thankful for the Anne Arundel County community for the advocacy, but not only for the advocacy, but for doing it in the right way. Redistricting, it's really been very difficult. Some of our decisions have been very difficult. But again, I just have to reiterate how proud I am. I taught for a long time, and I did so because I enjoyed it, and I wanted to always do what was in the best interest of our students. And I can tell you, my lens has been just that. So having said that, I'm going to turn to Ms. Dent. Ms. Dent, as the maker of the motion, would you like to speak?
So first of all, I'm going to say it over and over again. I am so very proud of our community, our staff, definitely our students, and for every stakeholder that was a part of this process. From phase 1, throughout phase two, I can tell you that I have been intimately trying my best to understand IAC, SRC, student data, overcrowding, overutilization, underutilization, CIP, and your list goes on and on and on. But I don't do things just because it's popular. I do things with transparency, integrity, and well thought out decisions. And so as I cast my vote tonight, as I prepare to cast my vote tonight, I really want to emphasize the one thing that I will always hold myself accountable for is being both fair and impartial. And fairness for me means that every AACPS student not only have equitable access to education, safe facilities, balanced resources, and all the things that they need to belong, grow, and succeed. I've spent hours on the phone with my colleagues. I've spent hours on the phone with each and every member of the staff that is involved in this. I've spent numerous hours trying to just find a way to keep all of the phase two students in place. Because as the data start rolling in and we start seeing different data, I remember calling Dr. Bedell and saying, from Hawaii, as a matter of fact, does that mean with the new data that's came in, should we go back and look at the data and make sure that we're making the right things, making the right decisions? And so this doesn't happen just because we want to pull students away from their schools. It's heartbreaking. It's totally heartbreaking for me. And I've spent a lot of time just trying my best to make sure that I could get to the right decision. And I don't believe for 1 minute that there's anybody in this room that don't want to make a different decision. But the decision that we have before us is not only difficult, it is the decision that we are going to have to make. And I've asked myself over and over again, is there a way for us to make sure that the next board members are not at this in 2032 or beyond over and over again? And the answer to that is no. Redistricting is going to happen again, and it's going to happen again. And they will have very difficult decisions to make. But my commitment is not only to make sure that as we transition through this, it is to make sure, as we did and we learned very much so in phase one, that our portal for the students that are having challenges, or the students that need to have a out-of-area transfer, or the students that may have needs and accommodations that need to be and need to maintain at their current schools, that those opportunities are available to them. And I think that the best thing that I can do moving forward is to ensure that we have a transparent and equitable process to make sure that we can ease the transition as we move forward. And so with that, Mr. President, I move that the board adopt the revised board recommendation 3 as the final phase 2 redistricting plan.
Okay, well, I think we already had that main motion on the table. So we're at the moment where we have to vote. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Dent,
Yay.
Dr.
Aye.
Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Nay.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim,
Nay.
Ms. McFarland,
Nay.
Mr. Morgan,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
It's 5-3, motion passes.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this evening the board voted to approve the phase 2 redistricting proposal. This decision reflects our commitment to Anne Arundel County, our students, and our school system. The process has certainly been a lengthy process. We have been listening to all who have advocated for their students, schools, and communities. We fully realize that this change impacts families and communities, and we will work diligently to ensure a smooth transition. I trust in all of our students, our teachers and staff, and in Dr. Bedell and his wonderful staff to implement this redistricting plan with all due diligence, just as they did in phase one. There will be opportunities for families with special needs and concerns to seek assistance and help in the transition process. Ladies and gentlemen, redistricting does mean that some students will have to attend different schools. Now is the time for everyone to come together. Our students are very resilient. They do transition often during their school careers. I am confident that the implementation of phase two will show the same results as the implementation of phase one redistricting. With our guidance, our support, and our help, students will shine, they will prosper, they will belong, they will grow, and they will succeed. On behalf of the Board of Education, once again, we'd like to thank everyone for your engagement and participation in this process. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to be moving on now to a review item 8.01. Any concerns amongst or any questions from everyone? Okay, seeing none. And we do not have for item 9, we've already taken care of our public comment on non-agenda items. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Consensus? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, so that concludes the meeting this evening. Our policy committee will be meeting on Monday, December the 2nd, at 3 p.m. virtual meeting. And the next general board meeting here will be held Wednesday, December 3rd, 6:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Thank you so much. Please drive safely. Have a great night. Good night.